Okay, we are live. You are watching Adam Cohen today. This is our business brainstorm session that we do every Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I want to thank everyone for watching and for participating and for being here again. I want to welcome Will Hanley, who is a regular with us every week. I want to welcome Keith Halperin and David Petch, who I think it's their first time. I want to thank Mahedi for organizing this. And we are live, and today we are doing another episode of Business Brainstorm. I'm going to let everyone, as I always do, go around the screen introducing themselves. I don't think we did that the last couple of weeks, but we'll do it again. Anyway, my name is Adam Cohen. I'm the CEO of SaxCap, Sax and Spencer Capital. I'm also the CEO of multiple other companies, including this one, Adam Cohen Today. And I'm glad to have everyone here. I think we just lost David, but that's okay. If he's welcome to rejoin us if he wishes to. And today we're going to be talking about government oversight, all the things that are going on in the world, and how it affects our business. I'm going to introduce Will, and then I'm going to introduce Keith. So, Will, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, I have a business called Our Becoming, and it's a program that came out of neurolinguistic programming, which is a
Ooh.
psychology methodology in Santa Cruz. You know about it, Keith. Good. Yeah. I love this. I was involved with the system from the very beginning, so I know the people that created it. And it's just an amazing system, I think. So they took the neurolinguistic programming, which they use for counselors and therapists, and they turn it over into business. And they started modeling business leaders. And so then they created something called the Circle of Excellence, which I teach to startups. That's basically it. Yeah.
So you need to teach me something. This old dog needs to learn a new trick.
What? What?
I
Say
said, this
again?
old dog, me, needs to learn a new trick.
Oh,
You need to teach me.
oh, sure. I'll try. I mean, I'll try. I'll
Yeah,
work on it.
learning was never my quality. Teaching was always my quality. The best course I ever did, I got the best grade in at school was computer sciences because I had to teach the teachers because it was 1989 and they'd never used a computer before, and
Huh.
most of us were already using them at that point. So, Keith, I think this is your first time with us, correct?
I believe so. Not much to say, as I had said earlier to Will and possibly and to Mehdi. I'm basically here to lurk and to listen and to learn. My story. I am a business and career coach. The name of my company is self-named, keiththalpern.com. What I specialize in is business coaching for people who are looking for employee relations, executives, and such, as well as strategic recruiting. I have a background of being a recruiter for a very long time before becoming a career coach. I also do career coaching for people who are on the autistic spectrum, who have ADHD or both, as well as their managers and so on who work for them. So that's my story. I'm sticking through it at least through the end of the meeting. So
Right. Well, I think we all have ADHD. I think with social media, I think we all have ADHD right now. I'm like, who can concentrate on anything for more than 30 seconds, right? You know?
what?
Uh,
Hello? What?
yeah, exactly. Henry, thank you for joining us. Do you want to introduce yourself? You're on mute, by the way. You're on mute. We can't hear you. Henry,
Hey,
you're on mute.
here
There
you
we
go.
go.
Am I off mute?
You're off mute now.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so basically, how much time do I have to introduce myself? Usually they get a time frame. Do I
Uh,
get about 4 minutes?
Go ahead, shoot.
Okay, I started my business journey in 1982, and I started a company in 1986 till 2006. I started in a garage doing plastic slipcovers, and I sold it 20 years later with a property of 40,000 square feet, 150 employees, and the biggest reupholster and hotel operator in the East Coast. In 2006, I had a passion for medical. I went into the medical field. I became paramedic. I studied all kinds of clinical stuff and helped lots of people. In 2012, e-commerce became very strong. So I started helping people, CEOs you were stressing and they didn't know how to run a business. So I met them when they were stressed and I was trying to help them with medical. I went into their businesses and I restructured their businesses so they're not so stressed and they have a vision, they have a clear guidance what they're doing. I built a e-commerce company for one of my distributors. I built it up to 72,000 SKUs with four locations. We did very well. I sold that for $1 million that I built up in about 2 years. And then I started doing business development for people who have a medical condition. And a couple of years ago, I joined EOS. I don't know if you guys heard of EOS from Gino Wickman. I became an EOS implementer and I've helped lots of businesses. I did very well. And about a year ago, I stopped and I said, instead of working EOS structure where you have your own way out of doing things and you adjust it to the business, today I go into a business. I'm there for about a month. I analyze the business. I check all the people, make sure they're all on the same vision. And then I play the role of what's missing in that company till I hire someone and train them into that position. And I take on companies for at least a year and I do a full rehaul of the entire companies. The last 3 years, I did 3 companies. I'm now on a finance company who does hard lending. And last year, I took a business from $30 million a year to about 50 in less than a year. And that's what I'm doing. And that's what I believe. I believe that business is just like a human. There's multiple parts. And if one of the parts are no good, the person's not going to feel good. You sit on a rowboat and all six have to row in the same direction to get where you have to go. I'm very strong on process, on vision, and aligning people. They all understand exactly where the business needs to go, how they're going to get there, who's going to do what, and they're all connected. And that's my story.
All right. Well,
Interesting.
thank you for articulating that, Henry. Like me, you seem to have an entrepreneurial background. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm sorry?
How old are you?
I'm 64 years old with 3 kids, 20 grandkids, and 3 great grandkids. I work every day 18 hours, and that's the reason I'm, thank God, healthy and alive. And I'm also a state medic.
All right. Well, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I
Yeah.
started my first business in 1990 when I was 16, so I think we have some things in common. I'm a
Oh,
little bit
great.
younger than you. I'm only 52. So in
Ah,
1982, when you started your first business, I was only 8 years old.
oh, wow.
But by that point, I'd also lived in 3 countries. So, so I had a little bit of experience. But
Right.
so today, I am going to talk a little bit about. I think that was a good subject because I think I'm reading so much in the news lately about corrupt elections in California. I think none of us are surprised about how in Illinois they're trying to eliminate the classic cars. How around the United States and around the world, big tech and government are really interfering more and more in our business and in our lives. And I wanted to talk about how is that affecting businesses, not just ours. I mean, you talked about hard money. I'm in the hard money lending space. Anyone who knows me knows that's what I do. We're all in a different world, but hard money, for me, I've seen a massive drop off over the last year as the way the business has evolved. It doesn't bother me too much. I'm enjoying a little bit more time for myself, but but I've seen how consumer spending, how companies are closing down, and how there's big tech is negatively affecting people and companies, and how government wars, inflation, taxes, government overreach, how that's negatively affecting businesses. I think that the world has changed a lot over the last, let's call it 20 years. I moved to America in 2000, and I think when I moved to America in 2000, it was the greatest place to live in the world at the time. I still think it's one of the greatest places to live in the world today. But I think there are parts of America that are better to live than others. And I would emphasize that by economic growth in some cities versus economic decline in other cities. And if we look at what's going on in California right now with local elections, local California has raised taxes almost beyond the level of Canada. where we have government overreach now for just about everything. And we are seeing mass migration from California to red states. And we are seeing even in in red states like Florida and Texas, you're also seeing a big reshuffle of migration of people from different cities for many different reasons. And how is all of this, do you guys think, affecting our businesses and in general the movement of people, and how is that affecting like the different levels in which we interact with each other, not just on social media, not just on here, but as people and as business, and how is that affecting our business in general? Will, do you want to chime in on that?
No, no, I'm fine. I just want to hear what you say. I don't have any. I don't have any really a lot of ideas on that. I like to hear what you say and see if I can think about it when you talk. So
Okay,
I'll
so
leave it up to you and Adam.
okay, does Keith, do you have anything to chime in on that?
Not at this point. I'd like to think a little bit more about and hear what other people have to say at this point.
All right, Henry, do you have any comments on what I suggested?
Yes, what I have, what I feel, and it is my opinion. For the many years, I've been working for about 42 years. Throughout the years, there's always something that's going to come into our lives, and something we blame on and say it's because of this, it's because of that. What I've learned, I see what my business is doing at the time, what it offers, and I change my direction based on the time, based on what's going on, because it's us. I don't let anyone else from the outside. It doesn't matter if it's politics or if it's whatever it is. I'm in control of my business, and nobody determines what we do. And if it doesn't fit with the narrative that's going on, I will make changes in my business. But as long as I can stay in control of the direction of my business, nothing can hurt you. That's my opinion.
I mean, I would agree with that. I mean, but you have to be a forward thinker in order to do that. You mentioned something interesting earlier, Henry, when you said you had CEOs who don't know how to run their business, which I see as a very common problem, that a lot of people are put into positions based on who they know or where they went to school or academic background, but not based on hands-on experience. And as an example, I think I'm a pretty capable CEO simply because I've been running my own business for 35 years and I'm still standing. I know people that have had a lot of money, started their own business and went broke. You think it should be the other way around. So, but we are definitely seeing a weird migration pattern in the United States. I'll give you some examples. We've seen mass migration from New Yorkers to down to Florida and to Texas, mostly to South Florida. The biggest and the best that were all Manhattanites are now here in Miami. We've seen mass migration from California, which was probably, and I've lived in California, I lived in LA. I think one of the greatest places in the world to live used to be. Now you're seeing, because of high crime and high taxes, mass migration from California into Arizona, into Nevada, into Texas, and in some cases into Florida. We are seeing a huge migration of pattern, and with that, we're seeing a very weird housing market, which you've got some areas that are exploding in value, and other areas that are what you call solid markets that are suddenly declining. So even here in Miami, we have more units for sale than we have people buying, and you think Miami is probably one of the strongest economies in the country right now. But having said that, house prices are actually falling. People can't afford to buy them. So and then you take into consideration higher taxes, uncertainty in the future markets, more government compliance, a lot of instability politically, economically. It's like people are confused right now, and I think that's affecting the way they spend. And I think that's affecting not just the way they spend on real estate, but I think that's the way they it's affecting the way they spend on cars. It's affecting the way they travel. It's affecting the way they spend money on electronics. The new iPhones are actually have not sold as well as they have in previous years. People are tired of having to replace their phone every year. All right. And if you go to the mall, you'll see a massive amount of people, but the registers are empty. So there's obviously something odd going on because the economy and the spending patterns and the climate is nothing is matching up. And then you've got big tech. Never before, I think, do I remember people being so involved in politics and in big tech. And never before have we seen big tech so involved in that what we are doing as business owners. All of a sudden, high-paying jobs and business owners are the new hot topic because just about everything that happens goes against us. And we are the unrepresented population in America that doesn't have a union, that doesn't have anyone. Like, I'm never going to call my local senator or my local mayor and say, "Can you do this? Can you do that?" And I actually met the new mayor of Miami, and I was at some of his campaigns, and I met him personally. And when I'm seeing a change in the world that even myself, I don't completely understand, and we can't ignore it because it's happening. And with the 2030 agenda, I know they're talking about that happening in, what, 3.5 years from now. But everything is happening today is part of the 2030 agenda. It's part of the World 2030 World Economic Forum plan. We are watching things happening in front of us that are going to affect all of us, but no one seems to really be talking about it too loudly. Is that a media suppression? Is it a government suppression? But the truth is, it's affecting us. And I find that not many people have too much to say about it, and I think we should be talking about it. Does anybody have a feeling that they would like to chime in on this?
I think a lot of it, and again, I am no expert by any means. Just as a layman, I think it's people are, and particularly business people, are waiting to see. There's so much economic uncertainty about what's going to be happening in the next quarter, in the next 6 months, next year, next two, that they're gun shy. They're not willing to hire. They're not willing to spend. That is just my guess as a layperson, though.
Do you know the biggest accounting firms and the biggest law firms? And I'm talking about Deloitte, Coopers. I'm talking about the law firms like Paul Hastings. They always used to do new hire every year. And the people that had done well from the previous year would move up, and the people that had done not so well would be pushed out. The biggest law firms and accounting firms in the world are not hiring from universities anymore. They say the generation is lazy, and they say that they're not prepared for corporate life. Now, I have friends that work at Deloitte, and I have friends that work at Coopers, and I have friends that work at Paul Hastings. And we're talking, this is a 6 a.m. till 11 o'clock at night position. But the young generation don't want to do it. Also, they are losing some of their biggest customers to worldwide international competition that do the same job quicker, faster, and cheaper. And AI is replacing a lot of these jobs. I can do entire workouts in AI. I can do entire budgets in AI. I can do all of my taxes in AI. I don't need to have a bookkeeper anymore. I've got the AI version of Quicken that will do all of that for me. Okay, so technology is definitely evolving to the point where big corporations are changing the way they make decisions. But big corporations are also making decisions that are affecting us. I mean, just as an extreme factor, you've got all these new things they're putting on food, a pill by Bill Gates. You've got the tick by Bill Gates, the lunatic, as we like to call him. We have Google releasing Microsoft. I live on the beach in Miami, and the fertilizer that they put on the crops has gone into the water supply, which has now gone into the ocean. Now you have a massive amount of I call it sewage, but it's not sewage, but it looks like sewage. And it's disgusting, destroying the beaches. And Miami is a tourist town, but people come to for the beaches. If the beaches are destroyed, that's going to affect our business. And what is the local government doing about it? Well, if you look all the way down the beach to all the way up the beach, I can tell you the answer is unanimously nothing, right? But are they putting AI in our cars that stops us from driving if we're tired or if we have smoke on our eye? I wear contact lenses, so if my eyes look red, I may not be able to drive a new car. The government is definitely overreaching, and I think that's going to affect every single thing that we do moving forward. And the more we stay silent and the more we just quietly let things happen, the more they will take control away from us. And the more they take control away from us, the more that is going to hurt all of our businesses, because they will have more regulation, higher taxes, more control, and that is, as a group, we're staying too quiet about this. We're not speaking publicly. We're not getting involved. We're not working together as a group. One of the things that is a negative about running your own business, is about negative about being a business owner or an entrepreneur, is your lack of community. We all think that we have a community, but let's just say we all worked in the same industry. Now, I go to the trade shows and I know all my competitors very well, and they know me, and we do business together from time to time. And I like them and they like me, or I don't like them and they don't like me. Everything is fine. But I tell you what's interesting is that, okay, as a community, and I'm in the hard money space, what are we doing to help one another? And the answer is nothing. We're not doing anything to help one another. We're all focused on ourselves, right? What are we doing as business owners to stand together to say this legislation, this change in politics, this new thing goes against us? What are we doing? We go on Instagram, we might complain about it, we may have a call and talk about it, but as a movement, what are we doing? We're doing nothing, is the answer to that question. And, if you work for the MTA, if you work for Boeing, if you work for Google, they're all unionized. They all have a union that protects them. Now, to me, unions is a big racket. They need to create a problem in order to maintain their jobs. I understand that, right? The Teamsters did it, started with it, and it's been going on ever since. But today, more and more people, they say 60% of jobs are created by small businesses. But small businesses are closing down left, right, and center. They're not surviving this new economy. So if 60% of jobs are created by small businesses, and small businesses are closing down due to lack of spending, lack of available funds, government oversight, stricter licensing, higher taxes, or all of the above, right? Then all of these workers are going to be out of jobs, and all of us, like entrepreneurs, are like enjoying our life and just running our own businesses. Well, we can only do that for as long as there's movement of money. That stops the second money starts flowing. But what is a community is Keith, Will, myself, and Henry doing to work together to have a voice that's big enough to be heard? Because if I worked for American Airlines and I wanted to go on strike, and it would be all over the news. But if I shut down my Saks and Spencer Capital tomorrow, who's going to talk about it? No one, right? But if all business owners work together and said, we need to develop a way to fight back, who's going to be talking about it? And the answer is everyone. So we have a voice, we're just not using it. And because our voice is so important, we need to use it. And the more we speak up for ourselves, and the more we are, instead of saying, what am I doing today that's profitable, but what am I doing today that's good for myself, for my business, and for my community? Because for as long as my community stays strong, guess what? So will our businesses. But when our community is weak and stores are closing down and businesses are closing down, and like people like myself say, hey, I don't need to do this anymore. Why am I bothering? I don't need to run a business and lose money, or I don't need to run a business and be told what I'm doing is illegal or be frowned upon because social agendas have changed. I'm never going to be the guy that's going to want to live on universal basic income, which is another thing that scares me, by the way, right? Because it's convincing the younger generation that they can live for free, do nothing, and be happy, right? But as a community, we need to have a strong voice. And we need to look at what's happening politically, economically, fundamentally, and how that affects us, and how we can work together to resist it. Because when we do that, the world will change in our favor. Because we're too much of a majority. And although I think the last few administrations are not going to, even though I voted for Trump, I don't really think he's doing anything to help small businesses right now. All right. If small businesses disappear, then what's left? Because then the big companies become a monopoly. And many years ago, they had these towns that were built by the big mining companies, where they could only spend the money that they had in the town where they lived. And the second they left that town, that money would become worthless. And if we have 15-minute cities where we're tied to that city and we cannot leave it, and I was reading about this going on in Oxfordshire in England today, all right, then how does that leave the future for the rest of us? Because I want a future where small business and small enterprise is as strong tomorrow as it is today. But if we're not focusing on our community, if we're not having a unified voice where we stand together and say, this is important to us, then we will lose our businesses and we will lose our clients We will lose freedom. All right. And then what's left? Now, you could call me crazy and call me a conspiracy theorist. I've been called worse. But I think it's a subject that we can't ignore. And I think even watching stuff today about how from 2027, new cars are going to have DUI detectors is probably a good thing. They're going to be lip reading, probably not a good thing. All right. They're going to be monitoring our movements, maybe not a good thing. All right. It's technology is taking such control, and the government is abusing this technology. And through that, that's just a starting point of how things will slowly be taken away from us. Unless, of course, we are working together as a group. Many small businesses become one big unified voice that we stand together and say, we need to fight back. I don't know if you guys agree with me or think I'm crazy. I have been called worse, but that's a belief that I have. And I believe that there needs to be some form of industry movement among self-employed business owners that has a common goal and a common purpose, because we're in that middle gap. We're not a big corporation and we're not an employee. And we have too big a voice that no one's listening to.
Adam, so my question is, why do you feel that organizations like the various chambers of commerce, I think there's a thing called the American Federation of Independent Businesses, why do you feel those are not representing us?
Are you a member of any of them?
No, but I'm just starting out as a business person.
Will, you remember any of them?
I have been.
Are you president?
But what? Not right now, I'm not.
Henry, are you a member of any organization?
I'm in my community, in the Jewish community. I'm part of the board on a few organizations like that. But
Okay.
what we find when it comes to getting people together, everybody has their own opinion. And to get everybody to see the same thing and agree to one thing is a little bit complicated. So to do that, you got to have a real good plan how to make that happen. Something that everybody should be interested in, have a desire to make that happen.
And I agree with that. All right. But what we've just established is 3 out of 4 people on this call are not a member of any organization. Now, what we just described was the House of Congress, by the way, what Henry just described, in the US Senate, where everyone has a different opinion and a different agenda based on what's what. And the irony is that you don't need to have people agree or disagree as to what needs to be done. But what you do need them to agree is that something does need to be done. Right? There needs to be a voice that stands out in the crowd that represents the 60% of businesses that create jobs in the United States, and God knows how many worldwide. There has to be some kind of body, and because there's a body of a group or organization that represents every other voice except ours.
What issue do you think encompasses all of the small businesses, let's say internationally? What issue could you be thinking about?
Okay, I have a theory. Again, I am an extreme radical thinker. I've always said that. I'm not someone who believes in war. I'm not someone who disagrees with war. I'm not someone who thinks everything that Trump says is right and everything that the other side says is wrong. I try to be there's a middle ground in every conversation, right? You have to have 2 sides of an argument to establish the true middle. Okay, now to me, I have a belief that over the next 10 years, the worldwide governments are going to try and put small businesses out of business. Because small business represents something very powerful. It represents freedom. By the way, this. Say hi to everyone, Angelina.
What is this?
This is Keith, this is Will, this is Henry, this is my weekly Monday business call. And now you're in it.
Hello.
Hey, Angelina.
Hello, Angelina.
No, that's not that. That's not her.
Hello, Angelina.
Is Daddy always right? Love you, darling. So the cat would have agreed with me. The cat would have been. I think there's going to be small business or being a business owner represents freedom and independence. I have the freedom, the ability, the affordability to say and do what I want. And that's the truth. All right. And I don't need to do what I'm told because I can get on the plane and leave. Right. I don't need to obey the rules because I know how to bend them. I don't need to be put into a vacuum of people that are like too many people are born with the sentiment that they need a job in order to pay their bills because they're sheep and they need a shepherd. Right. That's the truth. That's what they're taught from school. Go study hard, go to university, get into debt, get a job, buy a house, pay taxes, do this until you die, right? That's been very much what's been taught in schools worldwide for as long as I can remember, since before I was born. I wasn't taught that. My father told me that strong men run their own business. I used to watch Dallas as a kid, and J.R. Ewing was my idol. I've mentioned this before on other shows. J.R. Ewing was my idol. I either wanted to be Hannibal Smith in the A-Team or I wanted to be J.R. Ewing. I don't belong to a crack commando unit, but business I get. So, but I think that the governments are going to have declare war on private industry coming very soon because we represent a body of people that can do what they want and are capable of leaving. And if every self-employed person says, all right, America or Europe or all of these places no longer represent our interests, and I've advocated even recently about building American communities in Mexico and in Colombia and Argentina, just as the Germans did, um, because I feel that people with money can afford to make a difference. So you have to do something to stop them, to hush them. And if we're looking at a future where the government wants total control over what you do, and it's not that the government wants to control us, the big tech, the World Economic Forum, Apple, Google, they want to control us. If we don't have a voice, then they ultimately will shut us down. They will prevent our businesses from being online at some point. They'll prevent us from having freedom of communication at some point. They'll prevent us from having freedom of movement at some point. So if you take that into consideration, us business leaders, we need to lead. And to lead means taking control of this and having a voice that's unanimous and having a voice that's strong and saying, we're not going to let this happen. And although independently we may not be a strong voice, but if we business leaders unite, then we become a very, very strong voice. Because we represent much more of the wealth in the world than people actually realize. If you were to put all of our businesses together, you'd be amazed at how much wealth and power and resources that would combine and connect. It would be an enormous, unshakable movement. And I believe that we need to start thinking about this, because if we don't, then the opportunity will be too late. And I think that
Adam, what's an issue you believe small businesses have that corporations and don't have or governments don't have?
What do you mean? What's an issue that I think that we should be worried about?
Yeah, right.
Okay. If a multi-billion-dollar corporation wants to put us out of business, it will take zero effort for them to do it. They pay some politician to introduce new legislation that basically says you can't do this without a license. And that license now costs $1 million, right? Or you can only have, if you have a business, you have to have a minimum amount of employees, or you have to pay a certain amount. Look at how many businesses are closing down in California just because they raise minimum wage. How many businesses have closed down in California? Because it's a lot. It's an enormous amount of businesses just because they raise minimum wage to $20 an hour and they can't raise prices. People can't afford to pay it. So they're giving them less shifts. They can't afford to run. So businesses are not functioning well. So instead they're closing down. A little thing like that, a minimum requirement, shut down an enormous amount of businesses, right? COVID shut down an enormous amount of businesses, but it was okay for Publix to open during COVID, but not okay for a local supermarket to open. Because one was considered essential while the other was not, right? So there's your perfect example of how much power big companies have versus smaller companies. And restaurants were forced to close even when they had outside seating. You could have an enclosed outside restaurant, but you couldn't have an outside restaurant. You see how one click of a finger and businesses are shut down? They just have to decide that they don't want you anymore and you no longer exist. But if there was a group of people that said, we come together and we represent the union of businesses, and we had a loud voice that was a multi-million-dollar organization just based on the unity, they couldn't do that. No one went on strike. No one marched in massive numbers when businesses were shut down, right? But as soon as something else was happening, they would go out and march, right? So my point is that the business community, which is us and a million more people, we need to come together somehow to work together to create a voice that can be heard. It's just an opinion that I have. No one has to agree with it.
Yes.
All right. I think it's an important issue.
As Will is saying, one voice to come together here. That's what you're saying. To say what?
To say that
what is a specific thing that you would like this one voice to say?
It's not a specific thing. It's a specific right. It's the right to protect our right to stay in business and not to be put out of business by unreasonable government legislation, which is largely backed by lies in order to fulfill an agenda.
Okay, let's explore that. So how would that work? What would this involve?
I think, in my opinion, there needs to be an organization, all right, that for every business owner that could sign up to, which includes lobbying, legal, all the different levels of protection, from healthcare to legal to having a voice in Congress or at the Senate level, that basically says we are a body of people. Like, the World Economic Forum is not elected by anyone, but look at how much they influence in the world, right? Larry Fink alone, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, they own 80%, if not all of the S&P, right? So whatever they decide that we can and cannot do, we have no way of disagreeing with them. And even if governments disagree with it, they control so much of industry that they can do it anyway. No one is going to stop them. My point is that we need to have a loud enough body and group of people that when things like that occur, that we are a force to be reckoned with as a community, because that's what creates defensiveness. That's what creates strength, is unity. If together we're all just focusing on ourselves and we're just focusing on, this is my business, this is your business, this is your business, then guess what? We are all going to succeed and fail. And at some point, if the rules change and we can no longer operate, we have no voice. On the other hand, if we form a giant body of people, a worldwide organization of business owners, and we decide that we want to have a voice, next thing you know, when a million business owners come together and say, we have something to say about this. We're not just one person trying to get on the news, trying to make a point, but we're a million people. We're saying the same thing, saying we want our businesses to survive. We don't want to be put out of business. We don't want big tech, big government, big this, big that to shut us down. At that point, we are a force to be reckoned with and a force to be respected. And I think that's something that the way the world is changing, I think it's something as business owners we need to be talking.
One last thing, and I hope I'm not taking too much time here.
By all means.
How big is too big for that type of organization to feel that they are a small business? Like, if someone has $1 million in revenue, I assume that they're okay. If they have 10, maybe 100 million, is $1 billion a year revenue company too big and no longer representing it? Or where do you draw the line in which they're too big, they're part of big business, they're not small business oriented anyway?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. That's a very good question. And I think that, when you look at certain kind of assessments of businesses, I think they say any business with more than 100 employees fits a certain criteria, and anything under 100. Now, that might be right or wrong. I'm not going to argue for or against it. But what I'm saying is that if a company is a public company, that would be a good distinction. If a company has more than, say, 1,000 employees, if a company has locations in or worldwide, if they have government contracts, I think we have to not just look at necessarily the size, but we have to look at the agendas of those companies. Like if these companies support that they should monopolize a market, say only public companies should be selling groceries and only farms that are approved by certain pharmaceutical companies can grow crops, then I think we're basically saying that if you're on the wrong side of that and you're unrepresented, then you have no voice. So I think that a business can be as many as one person to an army of people, but I think if they feel that they want to stand against corporate America or against corporate worldwide, and they want to stand against big government shutting them down, I think a voice would be a powerful thing to stand up for. Let's face it, you and I, we're on the world scale, we're little guys. No one cares about us, right? But there's a billion people that no one cares about that are trying to do so much, and it's an enormous part of the world economy. If they slowly force us out of business, if they slowly push us out, they slowly make it untenable for us to operate, then what do guys like you and I do? And what could we have done to stop it? And the truth is, it's coming. People like to say I'm crazy when I say things like that. It might not be next week, next month, or next year. But 10 years from now, the world is going to be an unrecognizable place. I'm still going to be young. I'm going to be 62. Right? I still have a few years left in me that I want to leave a legacy for my children. 10 years from now, the world is going to be a very different place. And since big corporations have already found out that if they create a perpetual state of emergency, that they will profit billions of dollars and that and they will take away more and more and more of our wealth, they're going to keep doing it. So we need to think about how do we stop that from happening? Because how many businesses went bankrupt during COVID? Because it's an enormous amount worldwide, not just in the United States. It's an enormous amount. But if someone had been there to stand up for that, could that number have been significantly different? It's a valid point. And no one can say I'm wrong because there's nothing to prove or disprove my point. But if someone would have stood up for small business during COVID, we would still see many more restaurants still in business, many more hotels still in business, many more landlords that didn't lose their properties because of tenants not having to pay rents and mortgages that weren't paid. All right. So we would have seen a very different outcome, but there was no representation for you and I. There was none. And I want to change that. I will change that. It may just be a small group of people here today, but this is a new movement. It's not just this is me building a community. Right? I have bigger plans for this. Very, very, very big plans. All right. And I plan to make those views and my opinions well heard, well argumented, well debated, and I plan to represent the business community to protect the business community because we are a very important group of people. People survive and live and pay their rent and pay their mortgages and put their kids through school based on the work that a group of people like you and I do. And I feel it's important to preserve that because if we don't, then you're going to have big corporation, worker, and nothing in the middle. Call me crazy. Some people do. I think it's a reality because I've seen big business push out small business over and over and over and over and over again. We've seen it in the insurance world. We've seen it in the banking world. We saw it in the mobile phone world. I started out in the mobile phone business. When I started out in the mobile phone business, there was a mobile phone store on every street, and every one of them was independent. Within 3 years, 4 years, guess what? The service providers started opening up their own stores. Vodafone owned stores. Hutchison Telecom owned stores. BT Cellnet owned stores. Carphone Warehouse, right, was the only independent dealer. Guess what? They were a public company. They bought my company. And we've seen it with so many other industries. Big companies figure out that the middleman built them up. Now they're not necessary anymore. So if they can figure out how they can take over from our business and how they can use AI to take over from our business, then we become redundant. And it's a truth that people aren't talking about and they think it's not going to happen. But it is happening. And it's going to happen a little bit more every single day so that we don't feel it. And by the time we do feel it, it will be too late. But if we work as a group and build this community, and we build a community that becomes an organization, and then we become an organization that has a voice, then guess what? We can work together to make a change and make a difference. I want to make a difference. All right. If you're starting your own business, then I'm going to believe that you want to make a difference too, because that's why we're here. We're not here to follow the crowd. We're here because we want to stand out. We're here because we want to build something. And we're here because we want to preserve what we have. I'm going to let someone else chime in. Henry, what do you think about what I'm saying?
I love your idea. It's a great idea. And I would start with Amazon, where many years ago they put every retail store out of business. Now they put every seller out of business because they're taking over. So my question to you is as follows. It's a great idea. If it's presented and funded and established with the right people and with the right backing, this can be a home run. This can be what the world needs. But the question is, an organization and a project like this is going to require people who, yes, I understand some people do things for a will. I'm a volunteer as a medic for 25 years. I don't charge. I do it as a volunteer because I want to make the place a better world. I want to live for a purpose. But this is something where the people you're going to get into this organization who run it, you're going to have to pay for it because they need to make a living. How are you going to fund it?
So I plan on launching this year what I'm going to call the Global Business Forum. I'm already researching it. I'm already developing it. I'm already modeling it. And you're right, it's going to be an egregious expense. But being somewhat crazy, I will fund that myself until it starts making some money. And again, the money I hope it will make isn't to put in my pocket. I actually don't want to make money from it. I want to build an organization and a movement that will preserve free thinking and business owners worldwide. And I plan on asking people who want to be part of my organization to donate their work for the greater good. And not that I'm asking people to work for free, because you can donate time and get a tax deduction for it. But you can, if you believe that something needs to be preserved, if you believe in a purpose as opposed to profit, I'm always willing to donate my time to pursue something I believe in. I don't need to make money for everything that I do. And I believe that this is something that absolutely has to be done. Because if we do not do it, small businesses, even larger businesses, as we know it, 10 years from now will not exist, because you have pandemics and wars, higher government oversight, higher taxes, higher legislation, higher minimum wages. And before you know it, little by little by little, these little businesses start closing down. But when you realize how many people these little businesses employ and how many people enjoy a certain type of lifestyle because of the businesses that they own, that once you take that away, what are all these people meant to do? Bill Gates is already laughing about how we are all expendable, part of his new plan, right? Well, I'm glad that he thinks that, and I'm not an eccentric billionaire that can keep up to his level. But if I have 1 billion people that want to work with me and donate $1, and we donate that $1 each to standing up and fighting for something, well, we'll fight for something. And what we're fighting for is our right to exist. We've all saw the movie Independence Day, where they were fighting for their right to exist. Well, as a business owner, I feel that we will soon be fighting for our right to exist. And the government will come up with all these funny little sayings like, oh, well, small businesses, they don't pay their taxes on time, or they can't do this, or they can't sustain this, or, it's better if everything's government controlled or public company controlled, or one of their friends control something. It's going to start happening, and it will happen very slowly, and you won't feel it. But by the time you feel it, it's too late. I want to build a voice that can stand up from the crowd and say, we will not let this happen, and we will fight for Will Hanley, and we will fight for Keith Happerin. Have I said that correctly? We will fight for Henry.
Close enough.
Right. We will fight for Adam Cohen. We will fight for Mahedi. All right. I want to be a voice that I will never run for office. It's not my plan. I don't want to get involved in politics. Maybe when I was younger, I studied political sciences. I understand a lot about British and American politics, but it's not my vision. I want to protect my community. My community is, I'm Jewish, but there's enough representation there. All right. I want to protect the business community, because the business community has been my entire life. I started my first business when I was 16. Truth of the matter is, I actually started my first business when I was 11. I had a car washing route, and I sold my car washing route when I was like 14 or 15. I've never cleaned a car in my life, but I built up a very successful car washing route, and I was like not even a teenager. So being a free thinker, being a leader, being a business owner is all I know. It's all I've ever known, and it's all I want to know. And I want to teach my children that they can do anything they want to, and they don't need to go and get a job. They can. But if they want to have vision, if they want to go out and do something on their own, if they want to be creative people, as I have been all my life, I want to protect the many generations that will come behind us to be able to do that. But the truth of the matter is, the way the world is going, freedom is being taken away from us. Independence is being taken away from us. Creativity is being taken away from us. And if we continue to let that happen, what will we have left? We'll only have leaders who will tell us what we can and can't do, what we can and can't think, where we can and can't go. And this is very much what the WEF stands for. I stand against it. So if I disappear tomorrow, you'll know why. And I think it's got to the point where we have to have a community of people who may have many different opinions about politics or businesses or what they want to do, but have one opinion that they stand for, which is that small business, private enterprise, it needs to survive and it needs to thrive, and we need to do something about it. And if we work together as a community, we will have that chance. But if we do not, 10 years from now, running your own business may not even be possible. So I think it's something we need to think about.
What I would want to know is what specifically would the government do or the big companies do to stifle small businesses?
What do they do now?
Yeah, what do they do now? What are you concerned about?
It's not a concern of today. It's a concern that I see the way the world is changing. All right. I think that there's always been an unofficial war against small business from the political powers, and it's because and it's all about control. Like straight up, like people who run their own businesses definitely pay less taxes than people who have jobs. I always say when they talk about taxing the rich, I laugh because the rich don't pay taxes. Right? They know every trick in the book to not pay taxes. They can pay themselves with loans, with stock, with all kinds of creative ways outside of the country. The rich don't pay taxes. Saying you're going to tax the rich is only possible if they make very foolish mistakes, if they're not well educated. But employed people, if you raise their taxes, they have no way out of it. They have to pay. If you want to raise $1 billion in taxes, just take your average W-2 employee, take another $3 or $4 out of their paycheck. They'll cry about it. They'll do nothing else, and they will pay. And that's the truth. All right. But self-employed people, business owners, they will not allow that to happen. They will navigate around the system. So we are an independent, free-thinking group of people that can't as easily be controlled as a person that has a job. And we represent a huge percentage of the population. So when you have a huge percentage of the population that can't be controlled, and you want to have governments that want to have total control, which you will see as we move forward, it's already happening worldwide. Look at Canada, look at England, look at Australia, right? Look at California, even in our own country, and New York. You will see.
I'm sorry, Mr. Adam. I have another call coming in at 6 o'clock, so I want to thank you for this group, and thank you so much. I agree with you, but unfortunately I have to go to my next meeting.
Thank you for joining us. Please come again.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right. So when you have a group of people who can't be controlled, you have to come up with ways to control them. The way to control them is put them out of business. When you put them out of business, now you have a group of people who can be controlled. And for me, I want to be a voice that keeps that group of people free. Because it's an important message I'm trying to give here, is that people no longer believe in the political system because the political system has proven itself to be weak and corrupt. People no longer believe that there's anyone standing up for them than themselves, because we've seen how there's no one there for you when you need it. All right. But if there was a group of people that work together to protect the common interest of the business community and nothing else. They don't have to agree politically. They don't have to agree on business ideology. They just have to agree that they want to preserve independent, free business. That is a goal that everyone can work towards. How
Well,
it's
thanks, Adam.
accomplished, who knows?
Very interesting. Thank you.
All right, that was my 2
You
cents.
sure have a lot of passion. It's really rare. Very rare.
I was born to lead. I wasn't born to follow. I was born to stand out. I do, and it's, I believe in what I'm saying, and I believe it's a necessary thing to be said. And I think we need to talk about it now, not 10 years from now, when we say, what could we have done to prevent this? That's an important thing I need to say. So many people say, what could I have done to prevent this accident? What could I have done to prevent this from happening? What could I have done to prevent this disaster? This is a conversation where I'm saying we need to talk about this, because if we don't, we'll be saying, what could we have done to prevent this?
Well, thank you very much. It's very exciting.
all right.
I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Well,
Thanks for letting me be here.
thank you very much for joining me again, Will, as you're always a great addition to our show. Yeah. I'm gonna have to stop paying you to come to watch consistent visits. It's not gonna happen, but anyway.
Thank you, Adam.
But Will, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you everyone else who joined. You've been watching Business Brainstorm by I'm your host, Adam Cohen, and I want to thank everyone for watching. And
I sent you an email.